That's what they wanted. But for us, what we don't want is for Diablo to be shifted from the straightforward, simple, easy-to-play game that it is to a much more complex game, because that's what UI mods do. They add complexity. And at a certain point, they become a requirement. So we never wanted that for Diablo.
Hi guys, first thanks for creating this awesome game. We're really looking forward to it. My question's kind of a half question. Single player versus multiplayer, when your friends come in and you have the vendors and they level up, let's say you have a level 2 or 3 blacksmith and my blacksmith is only level 1, will that transpose over or will my vendor still be level 1?
So our intent right now is we worked a lot on how we were going to do this, and we played with it a lot, and we had all kinds of crazy ideas, like we'd have a multi-town that everybody's vendors would show up in. What we've learned is that people generally just want to see their own vendor and access their own vendor, and if there's some benefit that like a friend has, that generally they'll just give those things to you, like, oh, here's a cool sword that my vendor has, here it is. Or, hey, give me your sword and I'll enchant it for you. So we've found that being able to just see your own vendor has been the best way to go. Now, as we continue to play the game, if we come up with a different solution or if we find people are wanting to play it differently, then we can change it pretty easily.
And then on that, the PvP, are we still going to be able to access those vendors in the PvP world versus single player? Has that been decided?
Our PvP game is completely separated from the PvE game. So it's only there's not a grand world. There's the arenas where people go and fight. And we did that intentionally because we don't want PvP game balance to ever dictate PvE game balance. It's all about co-op and monster killing for us. We never want to nerf a skill because it's too powerful in PvP. So you know, in general, when you go into PvP, all your skills are going to do what you think they should do, but they may be tweaked a little bit so that they'll be balanced for PvP and then return to normal back into PvE.
Thank you.
Hi guys, how's it going? Hey, I love Diablo. My question is basically when you play through the game on Diablo 2 and you get all your awesome gear and you look just fantastic at the first playthrough. When you go back through Nightmare, unfortunately, you have to ditch all your great gear for the piddly-looking hatchet and all the lame helms and stuff. So in Diablo 3, will you get to maintain your look, or do you have to go back to using the not-so-great-looking gear?
Oh, we got good news for you. So yeah, in Diablo 2, the gear reset. Look, in Diablo 3, it does not. The gear, there's 18 like tiers. And tiers is not, I mean, it's a term that we use. It doesn't actually mean the same thing that it does on World of Warcraft, but it's just an easy term for us. But there's basically 18 tiers. There was more like about 6 to 8 in D2, and then they just repeated them. So those go between normal, nightmare, and hell. So you just get progressively better looking throughout the game.
Letting everyone know we have time for a few more questions. In case you don't have time to ask a question, we will have Diablo 3 open Q&A at 3 p.m. at the main stage.
Hey guys, my question's about the dyes. You said that you acquire rare dyes and everything. If I use a dye at the beginning of the game and I ditch that armor for a different armor, will that colored dye get planted onto the new armor that I used?
So no, it won't. And part of the reason for that is we want to make sure that there are always, there's always a reason to look for more. Like if you found one black dye and then never needed it again, that would kind of make it not that interesting next time it dropped. But it's not just that you don't just dye one part of your armor. It's important to note that you can dye your pants different from your jacket, different, you can dye a lot of different pieces of armor. So you will need to, if you acquire new armor, you'll need to dye that again. But we haven't determined like quite the rarity where the sweet spot is. We need to make sure that black dye is really cool and you look different, or red dye when you have that on there. But we don't want to make it punishing. I should also add that there are sort of In some cases, there are diet versions of the cool color. Like there's a really awesome red, and there's like a pretty good red. And the pretty good red is not that hard to come by. So you can kind of say like, hey, it's a nice red jacket you got there, buddy. It's not as cool as mine, but it's pretty cool. So that's how it works.
Thank you.
Hi. So my question is, you've said repeatedly that one of your goals for Diablo 3 is to design so your character feels more awesome, more powerful. And I was wondering, in Diablo 1, it was the opposite. Your character felt very frail and always threatened when you're going through the dungeon. So why did you make that decision? Is there going to be anything in Diablo 3 that will make you feel like that? And what would you say to players who want that?
Oh, we're going to kick the crap out of you. Don't worry about that. Yeah. And I know when we show the builds, like we're showing very early parts of the game and it's normal difficulty, and everybody remembers Diablo 2, the normal difficulty was pretty easy. We're really trying to hit a sweet space between the original Diablo and Diablo 2. It was great that Diablo 2 was very approachable early on, and that's the game that we want. But the original Diablo, yeah, was terrifying, and that was great too. So as you progress through the difficulties, the game's going to become increasingly harder, and a lot of the things that we're putting into the game, like the changes to the health mechanics and the addition of the hotbar, a lot of these are so we can actually make monsters more threatening to you. In Diablo 2, if you could just potion spam and town portal away from every threat, you actually never felt that threatened. So that's why we're trying to fix all those issues in Diablo 3, so that when you go into hell difficulty, you're terrified. So definitely, you don't need to worry about that.
Thank you.
Just letting you know, we have time for one more question.
Regarding, say, a Diablo 3 Collector's Edition, what would be an exclusive in it? Like a slight different look to an armor set, or what?
We haven't talked about the Collector's Edition yet, so I'm not sure what would be in it. Something cool, I'm sure. But yeah, we haven't talked about it at all, actually.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is all the time that we have today. Please give a round of applause for our Diablo 3 development team.
Thanks.
Join us next